I grew up in the social paradox that every girl grows up in. We are gifted Barbie dolls that tell us we can have any career we want while being told our place is in the kitchen making sandwiches. We are given dresses and skirts and told we are more of a lady when we wear them, while being warned of wearing ones too short or too revealing, because then we would be asking for inappropriate or derogatory comments. We are told to embrace ourselves, to love our bodies, but we are handed magazines full of unrealistic beauty standards of what a woman should be. But be careful loving your body too much and flaunting your figure, because then you're a slut. We are to have a voice and educate ourselves to be strong and powerful women, but our voices shouldn't be too loud because we wouldn't want to be considered bossy, and in parts of the world, women aren't allowed to go to school. You would think that because of women such as Susan B. Anthony and Sojourner Truth, who fought for women's rights decades ago, the fight for equality after centuries of oppression had been won. But as a woman I know, and other women will agree, that the fight for equality is one we fight every day. As a woman, society places an invisible weight on you, and though you're free to go wherever you please, you must haul this weight with you. It gets heavier and heavier as we go through life with unequal wages, sexual assault, slut-shaming, the pink tax, and the regulation of our bodies by the government. Society has created and placed this invisible weight that greatly limits the voices and power of women. And as a society, we must fight for women's rights, and not only empower their voices, but listen to what they have to say. That way, we can truly take a step towards equality. The most common form of oppression women experience today is through the social paradox I mentioned earlier. It's the unspoken rules that have sprouted like weeds among our society, that have led women to being ostracized and judged for actions that men are given free passes on. Society has promised women the world, but limits them to an inch. Society is like a toddler. Its words often don't align with its actions. In theory, women should be treated equally to men. After all, it's 2019, and we are sending robots to Mars. But that isn't the case. In an infamous sexual assault case, college student and swimming champion Brock Turner was found guilty of sexually assaulting an unconscious girl, Chanel Miller, after a party behind a dumpster. The case alienated Americans. Some believe that he deserved a longer prison sentence for his actions, and others blamed the victim, party culture, and promiscuity, everything other than Brock Turner. Even as far to say that had Chanel Miller been more responsible, this wouldn't have happened to her. People blamed the victim of sexual assault, blamed her for something that every college kid participates in. She was young and having fun, and maybe shouldn't have drunk so much, but that shouldn't matter. Instead of giving her a voice to speak her truth, to speak out against sexual assault and the horrors of her experience, how she is stronger in spite of what happened, she was blamed for his actions. Because we tell girls to wear longer skirts and cover their shoulders instead of telling boys to ask for consent. Because we tell girls your skin impedes someone's ability to learn or to teach instead of stopping the over-sexualization of women's bodies. A man can sleep with 100 women and would be seen as a god and have his ego stroked by society for being masculine. But if a woman were to sleep with 100 men, she would be ridiculed not only by men but also by women, and would be treated as less than for sleeping around so much. It isn't equal at all. The unspoken laws that work against the promises of society silence the voices of women and constrain us to the subjugation of the social paradox that we are women, but we must be society's women, not our own. We should instead fight against these obviously sexist and discriminatory laws of society and empower our women to have a voice and to be and to do whatever makes them comfortable and confident, while also making it safer for them to do so. An item of clothing is not consent. Women shouldn't have to worry about how the way they hold themselves in a public setting might warrant any time of action towards them. As a society, we must shift our ignorant mindset and empower our women instead of dragging them down. But the oppression of women in the modern day doesn't just happen within the walls of a social construct. It is spilled into the political arena, and new legislation has been passed that unconstitutionally hands over the ownership of our bodies to the government. In May of 2019, Alabama's governor signed a law that nearly banned abortion in all forms and made it a crime. This law was met with the fury of the internet, where people on the left and on the right battled it through Twitter threads. Again, the people of America were alienated. But the truth is, it doesn't matter if you're pro-choice or pro-life, because those beliefs extend farther than just political parties. The outrage should be the unconstitutional restriction of women's rights to their bodies. The case of Roe v. Wade declared that women have the right to an abortion under the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, but the states can impose restrictions and up to bans in the second and third trimester. but in the first trimester, it is up to the mother and the physician. The law in Alabama, though not ratified, sought to only permit abortion if the mother or fetus's life was at risk and didn't allow it for cases of rape or incest, completely ignoring the precedent Roe v. Wade laid out. You might not agree with the principle of abortion, but you don't have to. It's a fact that the government can control and take away women's choice, because that's what this boils down to. Our choice being taken from us, losing our voice. How ironic is it that the country founded on the desire to have a choice and a voice has ripped it from the grasp of women? It's legislation such as this, along with unequal wages, that work to silence us and slam the door shut on our opportunities and our rights. You don't have to be a woman to fight for women's rights. The infringement of women's rights is an infringement of human rights. With movements such as #MeToo and Time's Up, we have given women the platform to speak up and speak against the injustices we face and the silence they try to force upon us. The American dream that everyone is equal and has a choice is one that reaches further than women's rights, but to reach that national dream, we need to take that step and truly work towards women's rights in the social and political arena. A society has much evolving to do to create an equal playing field where there is no power imbalance between genders and the unspoken and written laws of our society. Women need to be the first domino of change. As women, we must set the example by looking out for each other and supporting one another. No matter our differences in lives or ideologies, we must empower each other so that we can break free of that invisible weight. As women, we must find our voices and be strong enough and brave enough to speak up and against a society that tells us that we should sit still and look pretty. We need to be the change we want to see in the world. We need to be exactly what society doesn't want us to be: loud and disruptive, completely unladylike.